Welcome everybody to yet another live lift coming to you live on the couch from Kongens Lyngby, Copenhagen. What a beautiful place, right?
Yeah.
It's a good place.
Yes.
These guys may be biased people from Jutland, but more from them in a second. But I just want to say a huge thanks to Steve Graham for being with us last time. It was a fantastic interview. I want to encourage you to head back and check it out because he's just awesome and full of fantastic, wise advice for young leaders. But today we are joined on the couch by Sebastian and Anne-Mette Fredegod. Is that how we say it?
Yeah.
Fredegod from Kirkecentret.
Yeah.
I'm trying with this Danish language stuff. Vejle, fantastic church, great things happening there. But we'll talk more about that in just a second. I forgot last time when we did a live lift to mention that the Freedom and Fire Tour with Joel Ramsey and Jason Terrell went fantastic. We did 5 cities in 4 days and God was awesome. He really touched people's lives. Many people surrendered their lives to Christ. That was a huge success, and so thank you to everybody who made that possible. And I think we've got a highlights video on our Instagram and Facebook if you want to check that out. But for now, I want to quickly tell you about the Lift Leaders Summit before we get into an interview, because I know you really all want to hear what Sebastian and Anne-Mette have to say. But in June, on June the 1st, we're having the Lift Leaders Summit in Frankfurt. If you are anywhere in Europe, especially in Germany, make sure you check it out. Head to liftleaders.com to register. But also, I want to remind my northern friends and people from the other side of Europe, the Lift Leaders Summit is coming to Copenhagen in September 13th, 14th. It's going to be amazing. So check it out. And we're going to show the promo video right now. I'd love to invite you to the 2019 Lift Leaders Summits on the 1st of June in Frankfurt, Germany, and the 13th and 14th of September in Copenhagen, Denmark. We've had loads of life-changing testimonies from the 2018 events, and we're believing for more in 2019. We've got the most dynamic lineup of ministry for you. We've got Pastor Paul Geerling from IC Church, Sammy Schneider from One Events and Youth Alive Germany. We've got Jacob Viftrup, the leader of the Apostolic Church in Denmark, Pastor Tobias Karcher of FCG Frankfurt, and yours truly, plus some more exciting news to come. Save the date, lock it in your calendar, head to liftleaders.com. I can't wait to see you there. And we're back. What an amazing video. Thanks to me for starting. No, I'm kidding. For starring in it. But let's get on to Sebastian and Anne-Mette. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for making the trip over the massive bridge, the big bridge from Jutland to Sjælland in Denmark, and paying the toll, the really cheap toll to get here. A bit of trivia for you all is the Tour de France in 2021 is going to be in Denmark and will be over that impressive bridge. You should check it out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just forget what I said in the last, 30 seconds. But welcome.
Thank you.
It's a few hours trip to come to Copenhagen. How many times would you come to Copenhagen in a year?
In a year, it's not a lot.
Not a lot?
No, we're proud to be Jutlanders.
Yeah. The church is strong in Jutland. It's definitely a thing in Denmark, isn't it? There's kind of Copenhagen and then there's Jutland. But you guys, it's nice of you to come across here. Would you come like once or twice a year?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. One or twice a year, and I think I've been to Copenhagen maybe around 20 times in my lifetime or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a lot.
So like once a year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Part of what Jesus wants to do in the kingdom is to unite, the split nation between Copenhagen and Jutland.
Amen.
We're working on that. So I think there needs to be some people need some healing in their hearts every time they go over that bridge. So it's great that you could be here. How old are you guys, and how long have you been in ministry?
Yeah, so I just turned 29, and Mette is 27, and turning 28 this in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, so we are pretty young, but we got into ministry. We became the senior pastors in Vejle 2 years ago, and we have been into ministry. I have been into ministry all of my life, really. From a child, I started serving with making juice, and
very important.
Yeah, been a teenage leader, a young adults leader, and yeah, so taking next step, being a senior pastor of the church, was not just, of course, the next step, but it's been the next step in my calling and in our calling to grow in our ministry and the time there. Yeah.
What about you, Anne-Mette? How long have you been in ministry for?
Well, I guess it started when I was in Bible college, when I was around 19.
Cool.
Yeah. So a few years now.
A few years. Part of the reason why I wanted to interview these guys today, it's super exciting and quite rare. I think pretty much anywhere in the world, forget Europe. I mean, in Australia, America, wherever, it's really such an exciting thing and a special thing for people in their 20s to be a senior pastor of a church. You know, I know some people who don't even start to be youth pastors until their mid-20s, and you guys have taken on an established church that's been going for how many years?
90.
90.
Yeah.
90 years taking on a church in their mid-20s. That's super exciting. I mean, tell us a bit more about that journey. That sounds crazy, where you were like, hey, let's be senior pastors in our mid-20s. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ladies first.
It always works. Works well.
Well, I guess we didn't plan for it. We didn't plan that. We didn't plan the timing, but for me, it was when I was in Bible college. I was just seeking the Lord for His plan for my life, and I just really felt Him telling me to quit my own plans and to put my life in His hands.
Wow.
And actually, in a very non-spiritual way, when I was in a cafe with my good friends, I just felt the Holy Spirit convicting me and say,
wow.
hey, I put a calling on you to become a pastor.
Wow.
And from that day, I just tried to educate myself and to open up the gifts that God has put. But He opened the doors, and we were surprised as well that this timing was now, but it was. And we grew into it. We started out as young adults, pastors or leaders, and just coming into that, we were with the church, but and with the young adults, and we loved it. But also from the beginning, we just had a talk with our pastor and said, "Come on, we love the young adults, but we actually feel a heart for the whole church."
Wow.
So he knew that all along, and he just took us into the eldership, and we were
fantastic.
a part of that, and just as a learning process. And also before we became senior pastors, we had a year very intensive training with the former pastor, where he was slowly handing over tasks and responsibilities, and we were slowly moving into it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What about for you, Sebastian? Describe the journey for you coming into leading a church at a young age.
Yeah, I think years ago, I had 1 year where I actually had to turn in the start of the 20s, I had to find out about my own faith, and I had 1 year where I was away from the church, and God, He really drew me back into the church, and it became a turning point for me, because He reminded me for the next 6 months that He have given Himself for me. Would I also give my life to Him?
Yeah.
Not just like be in the church and receive, but actually give my life and my priorities, my economy, my time, everything to Him. And it became a turning point where I had to surrender my heart, and I went to the Bible college, And I definitely found out that God, he wanted to use me to also and I felt called to be a pastor. So from that time on, I was around 20 years of age, and I started just serving really. I was like, maybe God in his time and in his plans, he can use me as a tool in his hand, but I can't step into like show up at an old senior pastor and say, I want to take over your job, I want to be the pastor here. But I had to serve, and I had to just be faithful what God has given me, and just use that. So it became a process, and I started on this course with people who think they were called to be pastors, and they just started teaching, and there was this training program, and over the years we have just been taking different steps in leadership, and then I was surprised as well that we should take over the church 2 years ago. Actually, somebody else was called and should be the pastor in Vejle, where we are. They asked a few people around, and one guy, he said yes, but then for all sort of reasons he couldn't come anyway. And I think God used that time to prepare us for the ministry, and we stepped in naturally because God said that was the next step for us.
It's fantastic, and I really want to honor you guys, because it's an inspiration to many people out there. If we talk about Europe specifically, the church desperately, this is why Lift Leaders exists too, the church desperately needs to raise up not the next generations, the now generation really. We can't fall into that mistake where someone's young, we think, oh yeah, that's next generation ministry. No, it's now. So it's an inspiration, because there's two sides to this. It's the courage on your side to surrender your lives to Christ, and to allow him to give you the very daunting, very difficult situation of taking over a church filled with people who are much older than you, probably definitely more life experience, but you're doing it out of obedience. That's and I hope people who are watching, they're an inspiration and an example to you that it's possible, and we should see more of it. But the other side of it as well is the courage from Cern, the senior pastor before you, to say, I'm going to take these guys on a year journey where I'm going to just sow and pour everything into them and give them the chance to be raised up. I really feel that's the other side, where we need leaders who may be in a comfortable position, they may be happy with how the church is, they may have done a great job for many years, but to be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna hand it to them. I'm gonna do everything I can for them to succeed. That's massive.
That's So we've really been privileged with a leader like Søren, who has been, he's been so supportive. He has been,
and still is.
And he still is, and he's still a part of the church, and he's still leading our senior work and with the elder people in the church, so and he's active in our missions, mission outside of Denmark. And so that's really been one of the hugest blessings, actually, of taking over this church. That the old pastor was not just, then I need to find another church, or I really can't lead here or step down as a leader, but actually a leader who has he has been stayed and encouraged us to keep on and press on with the vision. And even though sometimes, of course, we agree, because there's different paths for the same goals, but he's been so supportive all the way.
That's
great. This is really fantastic. I really pray that there's people out there who could do the same on mass scale.
And
on big scale.
And the thing is, it's not just about senior leadership, right? It's also in the other areas of leadership. So if you're a youth leader or a young adult leader, or if you're leading a small group, like passing on the leadership to somebody else and bless them with the new leadership responsibility. Try to encourage them, try to empower them, giving your wisdom and insights when needed, but also like give them the ability to lead, even though sometimes they disagree with you. I think that is a massive point, and I need, as a senior pastor now, need also to pass that on to somebody else. So we had to take that step with our young adult leader, which is Philip, who has done a great job leading, and we had to step out, even though we wanted sometimes to interfere. Sometimes we wanted to say, maybe it was good if you thought about that or something, but then we had to keep our mouth shut and actually let him let him lead, and then encourage him, ask him the right questions, try to empower him and give him the courage to lead, really.
And it's working. I can definitely vouch for that. I spend a lot of time working with Philip and the youth group there in Vejle, and it's just, I think I'd say this quite casually on the down low, but I think it's a little bit of a revolution happening inside of Denmark. So that is really, really, really exciting. And you look at Bible examples. I'm probably putting myself out on a limb here. Was it Solomon who stored up all of this stuff for David? Like just said, whatever, have it all, like have all the resources to do this. But then you see other examples like Gideon. We celebrate Gideon as like the mighty man of valor who overcame his insecurity, but then failed to pass on to the next generation, and the nation fell into the hands of sin and depravity again. So it's such a essential lesson in leadership. I have a couple more questions for the sake of time. Helena and I, my wife and I, we got married, and she moved to Australia. I was already in ministry as a youth pastor. The biggest discussion for us was, what does this whole ministry life together look like? Because she didn't have any examples at all in her life of pastors as a couple pastoring together. And she didn't have a reference for that. I had preconceived ideas of how I thought it would work, having looked at it from the outside. How does this dynamic work for you two as you both lead the church together in Vejle?
You can start.
Okay, sure. I think one of the things is like before we are the pastors in Vejle, we're just followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
And we are a family on a mission. And we want to serve together people around us in the area. So even before we were pastors, we would like to raise new leaders. We would like to encourage them, and we want like people to receive Christ. So if like taking on the leadership of a church cannot make that. Yeah. You have to do that as a family together. Yeah. And I think we were really aware of that even before we went into ministry. We were aware that we wanted to build a family that would serve God together, and that could be, both of us had the calling to be pastors, or we experienced that God called us to do that, and we talked about that even before we went into marriage, that we need to know, both of us, that if you were gonna date me, then you need to be aware that I would like to build the kingdom of God. I would like to be into ministry. I would like to serve people around me. And I think that has been a huge blessing that we took that decision before we went into dating and married and family and everything, because then both of us knows that that's what we really value, and that's what we want to build our life upon. And then being a pastors together can look really different, I think, from season to season. In this season, we just came out of a season where we were on a maternity leave. We just got our second daughter. We have two daughters, one 3 and one 9 months old. And in that season, one of us had, of course, Anne-Mette was on a maternity leave for 9 months, and I was for 1 month. And in that season, it looks different because one of us had to lead more. I had to lead a little bit more in that season, but now she came back, and we need to do it together. And I think an area is like to we have to be brutal honest about what we are good at and what we are not good at. And sometimes I will do things that I'm not good at, and I need an honest wife.
It's very
but
important.
also an honest. I think
Very
every
helpful.
team actually consists of that.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Yeah.
Will say, well, Sebastian, now you're doing the media thing again, and you're not really. Yeah, you're good at it, but well,
That's so funny.
it cost you a lot of energy, so you had to stop doing that and let somebody else do it. And I think that is a crucial point when you serve together in a marriage.
Yeah.
That you actually, even though every marriage would like people to encourage your wife to stand by and encourage, but you also need the honesty sometimes. And yeah.
Yeah.
I can speak further.
It's a typical pastor thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's also a lot about letting our strength be not the same, and to dare to complement each other and to set each other free.
Yeah, that's so good.
And for us, Sebastian's greatest strength is really to be the visionary leader.
Yeah.
And that's great. And I'm not that good at it. But my strength is really when the rubber meets the road.
Sure.
And to put that vision into
It's a
action.
great combination. Yeah.
And we really we really feel when we play to each other's strength and we are able to set each other free, but also work together, we can really accomplish much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, so that's what we're trying to navigate in now, to also divide tasks between us.
Yeah.
And say, okay, we're senior pastors together, but we're not going to make every decision together.
Yeah, we're not going to let Sebastian do the media. Some of these discussions I feel I have in my own household. Having a very honest wife. Yeah, it's fantastic to hear. For the sake of time, I'm going to ask you one last question, and this question daunts a lot of people because they're like, how can I give one answer to this? But what is one piece of advice that you would give young leaders today?
Yeah, we talked about that in the car over here, and I guess like the
preparation, that's the piece of advice.
For me, the best piece of advice I got going into ministry was to dare to not step up, but just step in with who you are.
Wow.
Like when God calls you, he equips you. Yeah. And if you are the one called for that ministry you are in, you're the best one for the job.
Amen.
Even though somebody else alongside maybe have a better character, maybe have a better gift. If you're called, you're the one for the job.
Wow.
And sometimes if we get into a new ministry or something else than we've been doing before, we feel the need to step up. Oh, I need to step up my game. I need to be better. I need to be something else than I am. But when God calls us, he calls us to step in with the gifts and the heart and the person that we are. And that's my best advice.
That's a fantastic piece of advice.
Yeah.
What about you, Sebastian?
There's so many things to take.
Well, we have to make it one.
I think in leadership there's a lot of pressure. So there's a lot of change when you cast a new vision. So our time has been a season of pruning, where we cast a new vision is one type of pruning, and also there's been some things we need to change, and that's a kind of pruning of the church. And I find that pressure can really do something to our character. It displays our character as a leader. So I think keeping our heart real, or like our life in order with Christ, I think that sounds so simple, but it really isn't. Because the pressure of leadership will do all sorts of things. It will give you difficult situations. It will give you conflict. It will give you pressure on economies. There can be all sorts of different things. But I think coming back to the main thing, being a follower and being obedient with the things. I'm not here because I'm the best, but I'm here because I'm obedient to the call God has given me. And I do my best, but I can probably somebody else would have more wisdom and things, and I need to draw on that. But when the end comes, I have to be obedient with the gifting, with the calling I have been given. Yeah. So be that. Come back to Christ with the.
It's good.
Yeah.
You guys are so good, so wise,
I
right?
think.
So thank you so much for joining,
Thank you so much for
coming all the way down, and
thanks for having us.
yeah, hopefully we get to do this again. And thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon. Remember, sign up for Lift Leaders Summit, liftleaders.com. God bless you.